you know, you get an insight and you know something, you know, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of afraid that it's not going to be really true and it'll spoil the whole thing for you, you know. But when somebody makes you say it, then, and it's true, then it just makes it more beautiful of a thing.
Water is the softest and most yielding substance, yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu.
Name straight, new wave. straight new wave. Name straight new wave. Name straight new wave. Name straight new wave.
Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. But you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
Got lots of love, love. 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 Got lots of love, love.
4v3.
Everfrog Esports trying to find what angle they can, trying to find somebody out of position.
We're gonna go through on this. Oh, what a roll. We're gonna deflect. White gonna go in.
It's going to be a really, really interesting one.
Oh my god. All of this competition could be so damn close, so I cannot wait for us to finally decide who's going to be the champion. We are expecting some chaos, some great moments.
Beast Mode has killed 3. Only gonna really need that rampage, so it's gonna clear it out. Santi gonna get themselves a big old 4K. Santi's getting rid of 3, clearing out the house.
That is crazy.
Nunji actually kills 3 people.
This team feels entirely different on this faster composition. Now Sagafar is hanging around, getting onto the high ground. Post bomb's gonna stick under Linky. They're not gonna be able to survive it at the end of the day. Manages to find a 3K.
Rio shoving this Ana into a corner. Woo! One more for the road for Rio. That is all signs go. Melophobia with 3 Melophobia. Start the fight. They'll end the fight. Oh my god. Beagle Bus, they have to play aggressively into this energy. Popping off in a moment where you needed just that. Ruby in that backline. Oh, the flick. Looking for it. Oh my goodness. The 4th one as well. Do they get the ace? They get the ace. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to CGL 3. Knocking off the dust and the cobwebs a little bit for this channel to get a matchup rolling. We've got a lower finals here. One of these teams is going to make it into the grand finals here in the NA Open tier to have a chance to play for that money. Primordius Rising versus the Zodiacs.
Yeah, and as you see here, this is going to be such an interesting match because it's technically a rematch, right? Zodiacs is the one who sent Primordius down to the lower bracket where Primordius has been on a tear. You know, they've kind of been playing a bit of upset here. They came into this the lowest seed out of their group, I think 7th seed overall here, but they've been absolutely taking this second life and doing their best with it here. So Zodiacs definitely have a tall task ahead of them if they want to dispatch them once and for all.
I mean, yeah, that's an excellent thing. It's an excellent time, right, to get hot. There's no better time to get hot than when it matters. And Primordius Rising has decided that now is the time to get hot. Of course, Zodiacs, they are the number 2 seed in the same group as Primordius Rising. So I can imagine, I don't have the overall matchups from the rest of the season. They have played at least once before where they win, Zodiacs taking Primordius Rising 3-1 all the way back in week number 4. I'm sure they might have played during the mid-season tournament, maybe not. The requirements to get into that tournament are a little bit tighter, but it's an excellent thing for Primordius Rising here to be the team on a roll, right? You look toward that other side, and the Zodiacs just got bullied down to the lower bracket by Boop Troop 3-0, right? So Zodiacs, they're the team. They don't have the momentum that Primordius Rising does have. Primordius Rising on a 3-game win streak. So you're really looking at this team that's hot versus a team that, you know, has the results, but maybe not as much momentum.
History versus momentum is definitely going to be the way to sum up this matchup here. But as you see by the lovely map behind us here, it's typical. It's standard. We're going to Lijiang to start off our series. And I mean, again, it's going to be another playing ground, right? Because like you talked about, while Primordius Rising has that momentum behind them, those several series wins here in the lower bracket, Zodiacs fresh off of a loss here. Again, they have the history. They've smacked them around a few times here. The question is simply going to come down to, has Primordius Rising learned some tricks here, especially with a very even playing ground like we're going to see on Lijiang?
I mean, as we get ready to talk about our bans, which I'm not 100% sure on, I want to talk a little bit more about this Primordius Rising playoff run here, because you look at the bracket and who they beat Subsun 3-0. Subsun was the number 1 seed in that other group, right? Requiem, you know, not as highly rated, but Subsun and Tarnished were the 1 and 2 seeds in the B group, right? This team is they're awake. They're definitely alive here, Mega. So as we get ready to head into our Zodiacs ban, which is going to be Tracer here, dude, this matchup is about to be ridiculous, I feel like.
Yeah, certainly taking Tracer off the field here, it's going to, limit those flank options. So a little bit even more on the standard straight and narrow that you're going to see these two teams sort of slamming into each other head to head. Tracer is definitely one of those DPS where the player is allowed to take over the lobby in a sense if you've got somebody who can absolutely nail it down here. And especially with Zodiacs being the one to ban that out, it shows that they do at least have some memory of what they're going up against on Primordius Rising. And, having that respect for their opponent as well, even though they've beat them before, still knowing that there's some strengths that they may have to deal with. It's just now the question of how Primordius chooses to respond. And it seems like it's going to be a strangely popular ban here with the Lucio being taken out of Lijiang. So if there's any speed, it's going to be on the back of a Juno, but more likely than not, we'll just see no speed boost at all.
Yeah, that makes me wonder, imagine we see something like a Kiri Wuyang backline with the Lucio being banned, which, as popular as Lucio is, he's kind of on a bit of a step down, right? I don't want to say he's not good because he's still very, very strong. Speed boost is still one of the strongest abilities in the game for engagement and starting fights. But Kiri Wuyang is, with the lack of the Lucio, extremely powerful for long range poke, and they're a little bit more mobile. The Wuyang with that slide and Kiri with the swift step. With the Lucio being gone, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to play, the hard nose run up in their face of brawl. So I can imagine, we see Captain Crunch hovering the Ramatra for their favorite hero. I think the Ramatra could be a good shout. Has a built-in speed boost in the Nemesis form. Could be helpful there. But ultimately, without the Lucio, the rush potential for this map goes down dramatically.
Yeah, and to be fair, we have seen teams pilot that rush regardless here, and there's obviously tons of different options and things like that to consider when you're going through these maps here. But I think the biggest thing is what these tanks are going to roll out on. Like you said, the Ramatra obviously an option. We've seen an uptick in a lot of Zarya as well as a lot of Diva, sort of bouncing back and forth between those tanks as well here. And then the comp you build around it, right? We've seen, some hit scan presence between the Sojourn and Cassidy, mainly the Sojourn, being able to play at that longer range, find value. And then your flex DPS kind of just sort of goes with the flow, tries to combo with the tank in the best way possible. So again, it comes down to what these teams have as their tried and true. And seeing as we are in that, you want to win situation, you want to play for the prize at the end here, I expect them to pull out all the stops.
All right, here we go. Lijiang Tower for map number 1. Gonna have to get a little bit creative. No Tracer, no Lucio. Both absolutely mainstays in this game. And talk about getting a little bit creative. These backlines, I can see the Brig Juno being helpful, right? Get that speed boost back in with the hyper ring, but Primordius Rising, I struggled. I think just going hard poke.
Yeah, it's very much a poke backline here with the Mei as well. I'm surprised that the Symmetra is not going to be sticking as a way to potentially move it around here, but again, gives you just even more poke options and potentially isolation with that Mei wall.
Well, here's the Nemesis form out from Captain Crunch as this fight gets started in the server room here on Control Center. Sturley having to use that drill dash to escape. Got a little bit dangerous there. Now these shields go back up. It's a little bit of that shield dance once again. But Galaxy going to be opening it up with the pick on it to Zexo. They're not going to give up this fight just yet. But the health pool's not looking too spectacular here for the Zodiacs, and Primordius Rising coming out here swinging on this first map.
Yeah, and again, it's all of that poke damage, right? After the shield dance is over, like you saw, Dexter sort of had to play corners. And while that can work out for the Ramattra with that big health pool, unfortunately, all it takes is the support being out of position for a moment for those icicles to connect here. And so now Primordius Rising taking advantage of their space because they can just back up infinitely.
All right, well, Raz able to come in here with that opening pick in this second engagement. Captain Crunch having to keep those hands up and stay alive. Shields down, but Dexter's just chilling on the other side of that. It will be the disengage here as they await Galaxy's return.
And waiting to see how this re-engage comes through. You have Zodiacs with Dexter almost at this annihilation, as well as some other key ultimates building up here for both squads realistically. So Primordius Rising trying to get in.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a very powerful ultimate there. Raz goes down, but the annihilation thrown out by Dexter going to be a very annoying ultimate to deal with, but they do a good job at kiting the ultimate and the jumps of Decay to get away from the tectonic shock. Unfortunately, Galaxy does fall during the cast time of that Blizzard. Annihilation going to be the answer for the rally here, as the flip will come back through. Didn't even really notice that Primordius Rising got the flip during that engagement, but with Captain Crunch going down, these Primordius Rising players that are alive will just bail.
Yeah, and I mean, that trade of ultimates back and forth ultimately leads us at a place where Zodiacs probably feel a little bit better, right? We have the mirrored OCs, but then you'd much prefer the Orbital Ray, a mobile ultimate that can heal and boost that damage, versus the Amplification Matrix, which is going to keep you in place.
Well, Zexo goes down during that Orbital Ray. It's a 2-for-2 trade here, and Dexter is dead, so no tank for the side of the Zodiacs, and Captain Crunch coming back up on this Nemesis form in just a couple of seconds. Cooldown now off as the overclock from Raz to try and keep this going. A nice fadeaway heady there for Raz at taking care of Decay, but now on the other side, Sorks is going to throw down their own. This venture going to prove to be a little bit annoying. The flip does come back through, but it will be Sterling able to get away with that drill dash. They're just trying to keep this Ramattra alive. Captain Crunch trying to deny the flip coming back through. Here is the Captive Sun. Will land on to only one, however. Can they take care of it and find the rest? There will be the pick. Galaxy does help to go clean that up now on the venture. And it will be a long, drawn-out fight that leads to a Primordius Rising victory.
Yeah, and so now Primordius Rising going to try to play up again here. They have tapped out their ult economy in a pretty disastrous way here. They are starting to try to build up towards some stuff, but Zodiacs, meanwhile, already approaching this fight with another rally. The Annihilation, even a Tectonic Shock to boot here. The biggest thing is just making sure Zodiacs don't have to invest everything to win this fight.
Well, there's a shield to deny the healing on the Captain Crunch. Has to back away with that hands up, but Soar is able to get the pick on to Sterling, and now at 95%, we're going to see the Annihilation. Galaxy does get traded, but Dexter is just eviscerated, and now it's Primordius Rising's turn. All of those ultimates that they did not have at the beginning of the fight, they now have in spades, and Primordius Rising come through in the end with the later ultimates.
Yeah, and so that, you know, being able to have those built up in the nick of time there for Primordius Rising, absolutely what you love to see. Zodiacs, you know, it felt like they had certain answers, but at the same time, you know, maybe their backline was just a little too vulnerable. You saw a lot of times the Juno and Brig were having to hide together just to stay alive for the moment, but the issue is when you're hiding in these comps, you cannot be out there doing the healing that your team needs to be sustainable in these fights here. Whereas Primordius Rising was not afraid to take some peeks, sometimes to their own detriment, but maybe that aggression can be the key here. Both teams keeping the same comp for the most part here. Primordius Rising just going to teleport out of spawn before going back over to that Venture Mirror.
Back in here to the Garden. Soar looking for the off angle, finds a nice little shot into the abdomen of Sterling, who's going to drill dash underground over. Now it's the Venture 1v1, and Sterling doesn't have a burrow. So Galaxy, with the help of Captain Crunch, will be just fine here. The point is unlocked, but neither team really wants to make their way over just yet. And finally, Primordius Rising will make that play, and it will be their flip first. But this engagement not nearly done. This Nemesis form out for the side of Dexter. Galaxy has to grab that Mega Health Pack, get away with the burrow. Trades continue to come through, but it's Primordius Rising again, taking the lead in the numbers. Mega Health Pack side are these stragglers for the Zodiacs, but this is going to be exceptionally difficult without any supports.
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, these trades are benefiting Primordius, not because they're getting more of them, but it's just the focus onto the supports here for Zodiacs. And when you don't have your healers, you're just having to reset or not engage in these fights here. And now potentially Galaxy, it's just a bit of a flank ankle.
Yeah, and Mini P.E.K.K.A also over to that Wu Young for a little bit more of the poke, but that doesn't help when Dexter just explodes, unfortunately. So that is almost certainly this fight already put away here for Primordius Rising.
Yeah, and it's this focus fire on specific targets. Like you see Dexter, even on the Ramatra, just not able to sustain in these fights here. Zodiac making even more swaps now onto a Wu Yang Kiri backline as a whole here, and that's a good way to start.
Yeah, Captain Sun will get cleansed up, but unfortunately Zexo, without that cleanse, is not in a spot to get away anymore. Don't go into the pond there, Decay. Hits the bridge. Captain Crunch and Dexter both popping their annihilations, but unfortunately, I mean, Captain Crunch just has to keep those hands up while the poke coming in from all sides on the side of Zodiac takes down that Ramatra, and their flip will be confirmed.
Yeah, the double-edged sword of having this DPS-focused backline here is Decay was not in a position to heal in that situation where Captain Crunch certainly needed it here. So, first time on this sub-map, the flip goes over to Zodiacs, and they have some tools to keep it in their favor with this overclock that they can mirror, as well as the Tidal Blast here. They can throw onto anybody, just sort of be disruptive in the backline.
And the cleanse has already been invested, but this OC from a sword, good for 2. Now, Zexo, without that cleanse, having to use it so early, it feels like every fight, the impact is just not being felt.
Yeah, and when you're forcing out this cleanse every single time, like you were saying, Fletch, it just sort of hinders the rest of your team because it's a tool you need later in the fight for these key moments, and to just expend it before a fight even truly begins, it's a bad look. Now, as you're going to see Zodiacs try to push into this, they do have both DPS ults to work with, but they're also pushing in to their own Tectonic Shock.
Well, there is the shield. The Tectonic Shock comes down, but Galaxy will fall. Here it is for Sterling. Looking for the damage, has one more charge, will not land it, but there is the trades continuing to roll. Captain Crunch taking care of Dexter, the tank, now with the supports on their side right now. Unfortunately, doesn't matter just how much Suzuka and Decay can heal, it's just not enough, so 99 will be where they halt. That's a bad pick for Zodiacs.
Yeah, you got to make sure your Kiri gets back in the fight here. It's going to sort of be a bone of contention for Zodiacs where they have to make sure, or we could just go for the Captain Sun while there's no Kiri there to cleanse.
Ooh, unfortunately, Raz is off the side of the map, but, or rather, Sor is. Raz died to Decay, and this, unfortunately, that's not a great place for Dexter to be alone. Tried to get the cleanse, but now, without Zexo, without Dexter, it's up to Sterling to take care of. Now hacked, now dead. That's just the map for Primordius Rising here. There's going to be some stragglers coming in, but there's just 3 people on the point that will be converging on these players. So this is going to be exceptionally difficult to retake for the Zodiacs.
I mean, that being said, they have the Wrecking Ball here, but the Wrecking Ball doesn't roll in for the second time. It's like you had it dead to rights here. Primordius Rising not allowing history to repeat itself, not at the very least not a 3-0 to start here as they finally strike oil and get a map.
I mean, yeah, the difference really, of course, the only difference was the backline, right? it's very much all in, right? This composition with the Iari and the Baptiste is very much, we're putting all of our chips into the middle of the table. You know what we want to do. It's up to you to stop it. And in that first map, the Zodiacs, they could not stop it. It was just too much damage coming out from Decay and Suzuka. And then, that's not to mention, Baptiste does a lot of healing. I don't know if you know that, Mega. But when a push comes to shove and you need Cap'n Crunch to survive on the point while pummeling down their opponents, Baptiste and to some extent Iari with the help of the healing pylon, that's a bit of healing to go into those characters, more than a Juno Wuyong backline can really put out, just like head to head, it feels like. And then combined with the very consistent damage that Decay and Suzuka were putting out, just felt like the Zodiacs couldn't keep up with the playstyle that Primordius wanted to do.
Yeah, and that tempo can sort of be the massive difference maker in these situations, like you were saying. And it's very odd, right? Because if you look back at it, I mean, on paper, Zodiacs definitely could have played faster, just because they had the speed characters. They were playing that Juno, especially on the first round here, but they just sort of hesitated in these key moments here, and there's a bit of a disconnect from when the Venture was going in and the rest of the team trying to follow up with it here. So Zodiacs wants to try to get back on the same page, but Primordius Rising feels like they have their foot on the gas and they're not going to let go with that fight.
Of course, Zodiacs falling short in that first map will mean that they get the chance to pick our second. And, you know, we were complaining a little bit about the consistency of these players picking maps. And while it's not one that, a map type that we usually complain about, it is one that is noticeably heavy towards one particular map. We're going to Flashpoint, but it's not going to be Saravasa. It's going to be New Junk City here for map number 2. And, you know, Lucio will be back in this map pool. So I can't really imagine that the idea of the rush compositions changes all that much. In fact, with the way that Primordius Rising played that composition with the Bapiari on map number 1, I can't imagine that they change up too much of how they're going to play this. So I genuinely believe that it's up to the Zodiacs here to go ahead and figure something else out.
What are my Atlas enjoyers? Why does nobody ever pick Atlas?
I did an Atlas game last week.
Listen, I should have been
It
there.
was the first
Atlas, but
it was the first time I'd ever done it.
listen, Atlas is a great. All the Flashpoint maps are great, including New Junk City. But regardless, like you were saying, with that, you know, potentially speed coming back into the mix, unless you see another Lucio ban, Zodiacs are gonna instead lean over towards the Baptiste ban. And that's so unbelievably targeted on a map where you're realistically not going to try to get away with the BAP unless Primordius is feeling extra frisky, right? Unless they were really feeling themselves on the BAP, they're most likely going to be on the Lukiri anyway. So that's almost something you're glad to take if you're Primordius. Ban it on a map you weren't going to play it anyway, and now get to respond with your own ban here. And you have to sort of narrow down what the problems really were, right? I feel like they had the edge in the Ramatra mirror. Even on the Soj, they were coming out ahead. So is there anything specifically that you want to take out of the pool here? Probably not, but if there's anything, it'd probably just be yet another flanker that you just don't want to deal with pestering your backline.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get rid of the Venture, which, yeah, the flanker pestering your backline, that is going to be a good shout. But to be honest with you, Mega, I think that they were going to come out on the BAP ERE. I really struggled to believe that, you know, we saw the Lucio ban from Primordius Rising on map number 1, so I think it was clear to me that they didn't want to play the Lucio, particularly on Lijiang Tower, maybe even a little bit stronger here on any of the Flashpoint maps, really. But I mean, I think that they looked so strong with that hard poke backline that now taking this Baptiste out, and of course they still have more opportunities, right? They can still get rid of the ERE later on if it proves to be an issue. But now with this Baptiste ban, I mean, I agree with you to some extent that, well, actually I don't. what am I saying? What I think about the Baptiste band is that it is going to force them to play Lucio Kiri or something like it. That's where we agree, is that that's probably where we're going to end up in a Lucio Kiri mirror match here, but not quite for the same reasons.
Yeah. And so it, like you said, not those same reasons here. Primordius Rising definitely on a different approach here with the Zarya in play. You normally see this played with a Reaper just to sort of be a frontline menace, especially against the tank here. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up receiving these bubbles. Is Captain Crunch just going to be greedy and keep them to himself, or will Zodiac sort of force them to be used other places?
Well, already out to a good start there on charge. Of course, both of those bubbles being used exceptionally early. Cleanse also being used very early. The teleporter to get back around the backside, though. That's why the cleanse came through. A nice little May wall to separate Galaxy from their oppressors there. Back off here for the side of the Zodiacs. But Captain Crunch with that already high charge. Good enough for the pick on to Mini P.E.K.K.A. Dexter TPing into the background. Going to look for that bubble on to the Kiri. And now this Ramatra is just in an awful position there. All alone, 3 players converge. Captain Crunch with a hat trick to lock it up.
And again, it's about that tempo. Primordius Rising truly does have their foot on the gas here, where they're just constantly rotating, constantly being the aggressor in these situations. And Zodiacs, you know, is not responding in time. I mean, their rotations got so out of sync, like you saw at the end of that fight. Dexter was off on an island. So now with the swap over to Zarya for himself, we're going to try to see if maybe that can be the answer here, especially with that Reaper combo like I was talking about.
Well, there is the second bubble, so no bubbles in the side of Dexter right now. Of course, Captain Crunch already 90% to that Graviton Surge. Surly, though, the first player dead here. Dexter building up very, very high charge. I can imagine it's looking similar on the other side, but Dexter's all alone now. That charge means nothing as these players get cleaned up once again, and Primordius Rising will lock up the arena.
Yeah, more than likely here, if it's going to be a touch, it's going to be a staggered touch here. Potentially the Tracer having to come in and just tickle the objective. Primordius Rising has so many tools in the bank, though, that for Zodiacs to not contest this, to give away 1 point already, realistically, you're at such a disadvantage for this next fight. You may also just have to give away in second cap by just forcing ultimates.
Yeah, I mean, that's just an unfortunate thing. They needed to use literally 0 of them to get that win. Now bubbles out, Graviton Surge, and it's only Raz. There is a sound barrier, but the rest of it was cut off by a wall, and the investment is so heavy, and they will be able to clean it up. Well, you know, I say it's very heavy. That was only 2 ultimates there. I saw the sound barrier got a little bit mixed up, but Primordius Rising get through that with only a couple of ultimates used, and they did get one of the most important ones out and made it useless for the side of the Zodiacs.
Yeah, so now, especially once these bubbles get expended, you're going to see Soar go absolutely crazy with his overclock, because there's nothing in the composition to stop it anymore, right? Unless there's a well-timed Suzu that's supposed to stop a rail shot to the head, this Sojourn has all the power in the world.
All right, well, crossing Kitsune rushes. Raz already very low with the bubble applied. No Wraith form it now. Zexo is also extremely low. Ice block forced in the face of that pulse bomb. Sound barrier down. They're going to get aggro here. Dexter again caught out alone as Captain Crunch finds a second pick. Knocked off the map, but cleaned up by Soar. There is a Mini P.E.K.K.A. and now Primordius Rising separated 1 fight from a completion on this junkyard point.
In Zodiacs, they're going to have their best shot at retaking, but they have to do it with this Grav Blossom combo. A very potent combo, definitely should net some kills here, but then you have to get onto the objective after with it already ticking up.
Yeah, and Captain Crunch already building up very close to a second Graviton Surge in the face of Dexter's first. Of course, they have no sound barrier to deny this Graviton Surge here, but already at 99% here on the junkyard. The cleanup will come through here swiftly, but that is just fine for Primordius Rising. They got out a couple more ultimates, and they will come back in with an advantage.
Yeah, And the advantage is massive here with that grab, like you said, coming up very quickly for Captain Crunch here. Mini P.E.K.K.A, whether they're aware of it or not, has that race against the clock now to try and build this sound barrier in time to be able to live through this grab.
All right, Overclock also ready to go here for Soar. As you mentioned, there is that Graviton Surge 100% now. Graviton Surge invested. Raz explodes. Dexter, very much the same story. No sound barrier for Mini P.E.K.K.A, only at 93%. So this point belongs to Primordius Rising.
Yeah, no extra touches to speak of. Now finding themselves 1 point away from giving a 2-0 lead here to Primordius Rising. And they still have more tools in the bank, right? You use the grab there, absolutely massive. You can just catch people off with this Blizzard once again for when Zodiacs wants to commit to the point here. So Mini P.E.K.K.A, again, in the situation where the sound barrier is going to have to save plenty of lives to keep Zodiac's hopes alive.
Raz with the Death Blossom ready to go here. Building up to 4 of them for the Zodiacs. Now the OC from Soar. Unfortunately, Captain Crunch throws the bubble out onto Soar, who cannot find anything and ends up going down as a result. And it will be the cleanup here for the side of the Zodiacs.
Exactly what Zodiacs need, being able to get it clean and done with just this Death Blossom here, as well as forcing out, you know, the Sojourn OC being the bonus, the cherry on top of that cake, as it were. Now, again, Zodiacs has the chance to be the aggressors here, but they're still having these little mini hesitation moments that's showing.
Well, Sterling throughout the pulse bomb there did not connect, as the Kitsune Rush is just going to be to stall for space. You see the Mei on the other side of that door. Galaxy with the Blizzard ready to go. Going to obviously be looking for that. Kitsune Rush's sound barrier ready to go for the other side. Now we're going to see the blue one invested, and it will be a swift disengage here as the Blizzard is dropped. Can't quite see who it connects onto, but the sound barrier comes down. Unfortunately, Raz is out of this fight at the hands of the Disruptor shot of Soar. Flip will come through, and it will just be the stagger kills if they can handle it. And they can. Dexter, last man standing on the point, will go down.
Yeah, trades back and forth, ultimately giving Primordius Rising control of the objective here, but Zodiacs can come back in with this Graviton Surge. No other ultimate built up on either squad here. Primordius trying to build up to a grab of their own to mirror here, but it's going to be one of those shoulda, coulda, woulda situations. Dexter has a window where they can be the opener with it.
All right, Graviton Surge, here it is. There's no way to answer it, and Captain Crunch goes down. So if you're smart, you just try to get out, try to live here, see if you can't get another late touch. But, you know, I'm not calling them dumb, but this is going to be very, very difficult if they continue to let themselves get staggered.
Yeah, those are 2 late deaths indeed here, and it's not like Control where you can worry about it at 85. So the question is, does Primordius Rising attempt to commit to getting a touch onto this objective? It theoretically is possible, but they're going to have to burn so many resources just to try to get in. It might not be worth it.
Well, there is Soar with a double slide in. He does go down. Captain Crunch meets the same fate. So they just let those deaths go through a little bit too late in the previous engagement, and it will be the Zodiacs finally hopping on the board here on map number 2.
Yeah, and I absolutely hate that for Primordius. I mean, I understand wanting to commit. You don't want to give up a single point, but realistically, you knew your touch was bad. Just give it over. Instead, you handed over a quite, you know, noticeable chunk of ult charge to Zodiacs here, who are now going to have a Kitsune Rush as well as another Death Blossom here. So what should have been an advantage for Primordius Rising in the ult bank is now going to be a net neutral, or at the very least a negative.
Well, Pulse Bomb comes out from Sterling again. Here is the Graviton Surge. Of course, these players cannot escape. So Dexter will fall, Raz will fall. There's some players on the objective. That Tracer proving to be a little bit annoying. Sterling does take down Decay on the Tracer there, and it will be Primordius Rising taking the flip, however.
Yeah, and Primordius Rising in the driver's seat where they want to be. They have to watch out, though, for Zodiac to just TP Raz in with another Death Blossom like the last time this play went off here. And actually, this rotation on the side makes complete sense because now you completely lost track of the Reaper. You have to keep eyes, and nobody can.
Yeah, it's a pinch now, and they don't even need to invest these ultimates. The Kiri comes through. It does have the swift step away, forcing the Zarya down to the low ground. So now Captain Crunch looking for these players on the objective. The Tracer exceptionally low. Raz as well. Galaxy going down is very, very annoying, but they are milking a lot of very impactful time here off of this objective. They will be good for the flip eventually, but not before Primordius gets it just short of 70%.
And Primordius, again, another situation where they're just investing almost sort of to their own detriment, right? Both DPS ultimates come up with nothing in that fight. And Zodiacs doesn't really have to use much of anything at all here. So Zodiacs feeling absolutely amazing in the situation they find themselves in, with this Blossom probably about to go.
Well, there is the Graviton Surge, and Decay, of course, cannot let that beat rip. The Kitsune Rush came from Suzuka, and another ultimate to the wayside for the side of Primordius Rising.
Primordius Rising, it almost sort of feels like just sort of a moment of just overheating where they feel so close to winning some of these fights and so close to the map win that they're sort of overexerting and they're making some very obvious large mistakes here. So they have to sort of rein their emotions back in, get everything back under control here for a proper fight.
Yeah, you see Galaxy now on the Tracer themselves off the Mei finally. Both recalls forced, and Galaxy will get the better of the 1v1. Sound barriers invested by either side, but Dexter died before the beat could hit the floor. These bubbles will pop, and Captain Crunch may fall. Captain Crunch will fall. Kitsune Rush it down to try and stabilize this fight for the Zodiacs. They are in overtime, so if they can get these picks, they can take this point to take us to 5, but they will not be able to get there. A bit of a common mistake here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely should have said that Kitsune Rush. The fight was lost. There's no reason to invest it there, and now Primordius Rising on map point here. They have the grab. They have so many combos to throw out with it here. Meanwhile, Zodiacs has to fluster themselves just to get into the objective.
Yeah, grab, Pulse Bomb ready to go. Grab Overclock. There's the Pulse Bomb from Surly. Will not connect. Grab. Will, though. Grab Pulse Bomb. Good for a couple there. Zexo does find a nice little kunai into the skull of Galaxy. The picks are coming through, but it's just, I mean, the players that are left, or I guess the player that is left and now cleaned up by Suzuka will not be tanky enough to take that fight any further. And Primordius Rising still on a tear here. Mega looking like a completely different team in this postseason.
Trying to defy history and doing it at the best time possible here. Don't get me wrong, both teams are, feeling the pressure of a high stakes match like this. You're seeing those mistakes on either side of the coin here. Primordius, almost let 2 points slip away because they're just so feverish to win this one out. But level heads prevailed, at least for the time being. And now Zodiacs in a situation they definitely didn't expect to be when they were back in the upper bracket, but backs against the wall, elimination looming. They've got to figure out what is making this Primordius Rising squad so dominant right now.
Man, I genuinely think it's because they're forcing Zodiacs to play their own game, right? And playing these and doing it in these unique ways as well. Galaxy playing the Mei is not normal in a Zarya composition, right? Like you said earlier, and like the Zodiacs were playing, the conventional pick is a Reaper or a Venture. Venture, of course, was banned on map number 2, but the Mei provided so much value with the walls, that space that you can control with the wall. We saw it so many times, especially you look back to that Junkyard map where it is this Mei wall cutting off half of the Graviton Surge to get rid of Raz while the sound barrier goes off on the other side. The wall provides so much utility, so much unique utility that a Reaper composition just can't provide.
Yeah, and so it's honestly kind of insane. Again, like you said, when you're playing the opponent's game like that, it sort of just takes you completely out of it, and it makes you have to sort of rethink things, throw yourself back to that base level here. But Zodiacs will have a chance to be at that base level here, as we are going to throw it to a quick little halftime break. Make sure you don't go anywhere, though, because on the other side of it, we will be deciding one of these teams to go to the Open Grand Final.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Primordius Rising, I mean, have obviously leveled up quite a lot since the end of the regular season 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? This is, I mean, nobody could have expected this team to look this good. I doubt that even they really expected themselves to be as dominant as they are, but they have looked that part 2-0 over the Zodiacs right now, coming down from that upper finals. Right now, Primordius Rising are in a prime position to make not just a lower bracket run, but a complete lower bracket one. They came down here in upper round 1.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something that we unfortunately see sometimes, right? When, you know, Primordius Rising, they got their loss out of the way and were able to bounce back versus Zodiacs. They're still fresh off the back of that loss.
The loss was to the Zodiacs, by the way. Just to clear that up, yeah.
Exactly. So there, obviously, you know, Primordius Rising has so much motivation in this matchup versus Zodiacs potentially could still be in their own head. You know, we always talk about the in-server stuff, but sometimes the out-of-server stuff, like those mental battles, can be even more important here. But as we load into map number 3, we're heading over to Push, another fan favorite here with Runasapi being picked.
Yeah, and there's quite a few ways that you can play this map. You can play it a little divier with like a diva. Kiri Lucio is still always exceptional. Kiri Wu Young is always pretty good. But you know, I honestly think that the backline and how the tanks end up playing is ultimately going to come down to what our bans are going to look like, right? Because it kind of feels like the bans so far have dictated the way that we have played the first 2 maps, right? More so than really I think I've seen before. Maybe it's because these teams do know each other so well that they're able to just kind of, you know, press the pressure points, so to say. As the Zodiacs are going to actually ban the Zarya here, so that's going to take that away. So it would, in my opinion, be ultimately the Ramatra coming out for the side of both of these teams. I can't imagine that, you know, after what we saw in map number 1, it's really going to be any different.
Yeah, certainly it can be different here. And again, it's just one of those things of obviously bans can matter, right? They can change the course of the series, what you want to play with the Kiri ban here, Primordius. But at the end of the day, you know, you are in these, you know, this situation where you should be flexible, right? We're not dealing with our diamond tier or something like that. This is the open tier. This is the cream of the crop. This is the best of the best here. You're supposed to be flexible.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Primordius Rising go from their out of left field backline with that Baptiste Yari into the conventional Kiri Lucio. Not going to be a problem this map. Not going to be something that they're going to have to acquiesce on. Primordius Rising banning out that Kiriko, as you said there. So, if I'm being honest, Mega, I think it's gonna be the poke rush, right? I can't imagine we see anything like different than what we saw in map number 1, specifically for Primordius Rising. The composition can be, you know, very similar for the Zodiacs as well, as we head into our 3rd map match point here for Primordius Rising. I'm not going to talk about the Mercy. I can't imagine that stays. But on the other side, the Zodiacs actually hovering something a little bit different than we saw in map number 1 without that Kiriko. It'll be the Lucio Baptiste.
Yeah, and so it could be sort of that difference again here when you're being a little bit more flexible with the BAP now as well here. Both squads going to be pretty much mirrored besides just the lack of Lucio for Primordius. It'll be interesting to see if Zodiacs can try to switch up the tempo now that they have such a clear advantage in terms of actually being able to speed down their opponent.
All right. Need to make the plays that you could not on map number 1. Here we go. Runasapi. Raz getting ready to build that railgun as Galaxy hits the flank on the far side, getting into that backline. Sturley as well, doing much of the same. Immortality field forced out and broken there as Suzuka also falls. The healing comes through from Decay as they try to keep their Ramatra alive and kicking here, as it will be a forced disengage by Primordius.
Yeah, they'll have to back off for the time being here, and now trying to look for a little bit more. As the Sojourn duel ends up going Primordius' way, they're probably going to be willing to re-engage rather quickly.
Yeah, this is going to be a good place to take the fight on this objective, rotating around to take care of their mirror images. Captain Crunch, the Ramatra forced away. Dexter trying to get back around the corner now, puts up that shield. Surly going in with those pulse pistols, looking for a pick in the back line. The flank not going to mean very much, as Sturley is exceptionally low, forced to use the recall, but so is Galaxy. Galaxy now under pressure by a couple more players, and Mini P.E.K.K.A very low, especially now they need to get away because Zexo is dead. Mini P.E.K.K.A has to get away, will get away to try and help their team and themselves as Primordius Rising takes the lead.
Yeah, Primordius Rising now back in that driver's seat here. And again, this extra poke damage that's coming thanks to the support line is making a bit of a pain in the side here. Galaxy, trying to be a little bit aggressive in the Tracer 1v1. But again, just look at the positioning. Primordius is not afraid to move forward here.
Well, here we see the Captain Sun will come down. I believe that it's onto the Baptiste. Will hit the Baptiste, who is very low, even with that Immortality Field, saving their lives. Will be cleaned up post-haste as soon as that Immortality Field goes away.
These Captive Suns from
like
Decay
that one,
have been
Megan?
so extra. Yeah, post-haste, our word of the day here on CGL3. Make sure you go ahead, jot that down. It will be on the vocab test. But Zodiacs now have a chance to try to respond here. And they're going to have to, invest some kind of ultimates here just to try to get back on the bot, because they can't let this meter keep slipping.
Well, here is the Amp Matrix out from Zexo. Immortality Field forced out early. There will be a trade. Pulse Bomb invested, will not connect for Galaxy. Trying to keep these players up and swinging as Suzuka has one of their own, but Raz just eviscerated Galaxy. Now rotating around to look at this Zexo guy. Finally knocked down off of that high ground. Dexter very low, getting some healing in from Mini P.E.K.K.A. Annihilation invested by the Ramatra on the other side. Dexter so damn low. The bot took a little bit of a trip the wrong way for Primordius Rising, but they're gonna be able to clean up this fight.
Yeah, another clean fight here, which is going to continue to build the meterage for Primordius Rising. That's a good way to start, though. Galaxy finally being punished for being overextended so deep in the backline here. But you have to stop this bot from moving here. You have to get onto the objective. It can't just be these one picks. You have to start chaining them together. It's the nature of push. You have to win multiple fights in a row.
Right, here we go. Sound barrier ready to go for Mini P.E.K.K.A here. None of these ultimates except for the OC are really going to be, used. Well, as I say that, Mini P.E.K.K.A decides they want to prove me very wrong. Immortality Field in from Suzuka, who will be good to take down Zexo. Unfortunately, that's the only pick they're going to be able to afford. A little bit broke at the moment in the marketplace of ideas. So the Zodiacs will be cleaning up Captain Crunch on this objective to finally get their push moving.
Yeah, and so now's the part where they have to start chaining things together here. They do have the DPS ultimates that are going to be mirrored for both squads here. I would like to see Raz try to rip this one early, sort of be the initiator here instead of playing second fiddle, because the longer you wait, it's just giving Primordius Rising more and more time to find what they want.
All right, Charlie in the backline already headshot there. It has to grab the mini health pack as the Galaxy just chilling in a corner. Do not want this bot to get pushed. Obviously, you don't have to be right on top of the bot in order to get that value to stop it. There will be a trade, though. Sora comes down. Galaxy meets the same fate. Captive Sun from Decay to try and move it forward, and it will. Mini P.E.K.K.A's dead. Dexter takes a couple more shots. Can't quite get rid of Raz, but, I mean, Raz is all alone now, and, even with this pick... Okay, well, never mind. I'm happy to be wrong here as Raz does weather the storm, and the Zodiacs will finally get back on the objective.
Yeah, and again, I feel like that's another situation of Primordius Rising being a little bit too overzealous here, each believing that they can single-handedly make a play to win a fight here. You gotta keep calm and make rational decisions here. Zodiacs now pushing towards their forward spawn with tons of tools to work with.
All right. Rather, the amplification matrix helped by the overclock. Raz, immortality field up and good to keep that Sojourn alive. The Nemesis form, or rather the Annihilation for Captain Crunch, goes awry. Not quite able to flip that fight any particular way. So Primordius Rising will acquiesce the bot here to the objective.
Yeah, and so now Zodiac's exactly where they want to be because they have this Annihilation. They're also building close to a sound barrier here to be able to give themselves that extra sustain to make this push to finally take the lead in this map here. Primordius Rising, again, a little bit frazzled, a little bit split with how they're playing.
Annihilation ready to go here for Dexter. Galaxy is in the backline looking for the pulse bomb. Still can't quite find a solid target for that ultimate. Sound barrier and pulse bomb out from the side of the Zodiacs will help them move this forward. Neither team, though, has the help of a Baptiste. And with Mini-Pek as low as they are and now dead, this should be Primordius Rising's fight to lose. Raz having to use that slide to get away. Galaxy trying to keep control of the bot, sees their mirror number, but Decay is good for it with that dash. So it will be Primordius Rising taking control just before relinquishing the lead.
Yeah, that's incredibly close, though. So now Zodiac's definitely going to find themselves within striking distance. The issue is Primordius Rising won that without a single ultimate investment here. So now having to try to do a little bit more here as they have so many tools that they can chuck into this one.
All right, well, there is the Captive Sun. A lot of damage being put out. The Immortality Field taken out before Zexo detonates. So even with that pick on it to Decay, it will not matter there as the Annihilation is invested to survive for the side of Primordius Rising, and Dexter, while being able to take down Captain Crunch, will fall themselves. So they will be able to get back this close bomb. Oh, they're bailing before they can get it.
Yeah, denied the forward spawns. That's actually phenomenal play from Raz there to sort of push the Tracer away. Galaxy knowing that he cannot die before this next fight breaks out here. So no forward spawns put Zodiacs in a position to, once again, if they can get this fight, re-surmount their advantage. But it's going to be incredibly close.
Galaxy still holding on to this pulse bomb. Still looking for a target. And here is the Ant Matrix to control a significant portion of this street. There is the Immortality Field invested as well as the Ant Matrix on the other side. This one's a little bit more restricted in what it can do, unfortunately. On the outskirts, though, has a couple of shots, but not before Decay gets the pick. Raz immediately folded before finding anything with their overclock investment, and this is looking severely uncomfortable here now for the Zodiacs. This pendulum back and forth between these two teams here on push.
Back and forth, like you said here, and as we dip below a minute, Primordius Rising looking to potentially add to their lead here. Depending on how many meters they get, it could go from a one-fight territory to adding in a second or even third fight that Zodiacs is going to have to try to come back from in an overtime situation. Things are already looking bad.
This fight going on for a long time. Raz hit by a shot by Soar, able to be cleaned up by Galaxy on that high ground. This Nemesis form can only do so much for so long. Primordius Rising pushing, moving forward at 20, now almost a 30-meter lead with only 14 seconds left. Raz is dead. Galaxy with an exceptional assassination there onto the Sojourn. So much of their damage is gone. They've gone over to the Orisa now. They have the sound barrier ready to go to try and keep this fight alive for as long as they can. Dexter, no cooldowns anymore to speak of. Captain Crunch building up very close to a Nemesis, or an Annihilation, I should say, of their own as Mini-Pekka's sound barrier fades into the afterlife. Galaxy good. Where another pick on it to Raz. Unstoppable is this Tracer right now. Primordius Rising throw down the Annihilation, but it's just fireworks. Primordius Rising complete their lower bracket run and find themselves in the grand finals.
They deny history. They let their experience speak for itself. They won't lose to Zodiacs a third time here. Finally having the recipe, putting it together in the best way possible, holding the tempo hostage here, and forcing Zodiacs to bend the knee. Like you said, Fletch, they came down to lower brackets so early on, but they power through. They get through every challenge sent their way, and now they find themselves back in the grand finals after a long, long fight.
Yeah, I have no more superlatives, right? I have nothing else to say that I have not already said about this Primordius team. They're exceptional. This team has fought through so much adversity to get where they are right now. I mean, they took down, as the number 4 seed in their group, right? The lowest seed out of group number 1. They made it through Requiem, who, of course, was a little bit lower on the other side. But they made it through Subsun, the 1 seed from the other group. They made it through Tarnished, the 2 seed of the other group. And now they've made it through the Zodiacs, the 2 seed of their own group. This team has fought the best of the best in this NA Open bracket, and they have prevailed. And now they have to go against the only other team standing in this tournament in Boop Troop.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive to see. It shows you, right? Once you get into the postseason, you know, obviously your regular season record, it plays a factor. It determines your odds and things like that. But ultimately, you write your own story here, and Primordius Rising have certainly done an amazing job at doing that. And while we sing their praises all day long, I'm sure they could do it much better themselves here, as well as we'd probably like to hear from Zodiacs if possible. So we're going to throw it to a quick little break, get some interview set up for y'all so we can hear the thoughts, the mind processes behind these squads.
right, welcome back, everybody. We've got our tank here from the side of our victors. Primordius rising here tonight. Captain Crunch, a phenomenal win here tonight to place y'all firmly in the final to the grand finals on the horizon. I mean, I gotta know, end of that game, y'all win Runasapi. What were the comms like? How were y'all feeling?
I was screaming, jumping up and down. Sorix, his daddy, he just carried the whole game. It was amazing. It was awesome.
I mean, hey, listen, you gotta hype the homies up in that situation, of course. But before looking at those final moments, I kind of want to look back at the series going in here. Obviously, Zodiac is the team that sent y'all down to the lower bracket here. Was there any extra nerves or anything like that, knowing that it was this rematch that you had to go up against?
I wouldn't say nerves, more of a chip on my shoulder, because last time we didn't have our full roster. And the first time we played them in the regular season, it was really scuffed. So this is the first true match we've had against them, and we just wanted to beat them. No real nerves.
Listen, he absolutely came to do that here. Looking in specifically at a moment I want to talk about on New Junk City here. I got the impression from watching it on that third point that you end up giving up over to Zodiacs, that there was a bit of almost like an overheating moment where we were like, guys, we can win right now. We can just go. Maybe do you want to talk about the comms in that moment? Was it like that, or was there something else going on?
So the last touch, we thought someone swapped a tracer to get it, and they didn't, and we panicked and just ran the point. So it was a bit of a miscomm on our part, but yeah.
Now, I kind of want to get you to reflect on this playoff run as it is. Obviously, the job's not finished. Y'all got one more opponent in Boop Troop, but man, y'all fall to the lower bracket in round number 1 to this very same team in the Zodiacs, and now all the way through the lower bracket into the grand finals. What's the process of getting prepared for this lower bracket run been like, and how have y'all stayed motivated despite being one game away from elimination from the very beginning?
I think getting knocked down, it really opened our eyes that we need to get our players here, and we need to put our heads down and just play rather than focusing on trying to get the best team possible. So we disassembled the 5 players and just go. So.
All right. Well, I mean, an impressive lower bracket run comes to a conclusion sometime, I assume, in the next week. It will, be up to y'all to decide whether y'all come out on top or fall just a little bit short. But before we send you to go get prepared, Captain Crunch, is there anything else you'd like to bring up that maybe we did not, or maybe any shout-outs that you'd like to make?
I want to thank my entire team for showing up today. Galaxy, Sorix, those two are both amazing players. They played really well. And I have a few words for Boop Troop. You need to be scared. I beat an Amplify. I've taken Dildux to map 5. Your high stature and face it does not scare me. Be ready. I'm coming for you.
All right, Primordius rising on the way. Thank you, Captain Crunch, for coming to talk to us, and we wish you the best of luck in the grand finals.
All right, thank you very much for having me. You have a nice day.
You have a great night. And it is a great night indeed, Megaless. Maybe not for results. The results are a little bit heavy-handed, is what I'll say. It's a bit of free Overwatch throughout CGL tonight. Of course, we had ours. Ambitious Silver Squad, the NA Plat Grand Finals on CGL 1, which is where we're gonna end up here as soon as we close out. Is a 3-0 scoreline towards Ambitious Silver Squad versus Drop the Guns. On CGL 2, we had the NA Diamond Wawa Gaming versus Shelby's team. I believe that one was also a 3-0. So, I mean, a little bit of some domination going on here tonight, but maybe, hopefully, this last week of games will be a little bit better.
yeah, we keep talking about it, these playoffs, it feels like they've been going on forever and ever, but the end is in sight. Like you said, we already have a grand finals happening this bracket. Now in the grand finals as well here, this being most likely the last week here, everybody's giving it that final push. The trophies are in sight. And so make sure you're just following all the CGL channels. There's going to be tons of matches here to round off a very exciting and definitive Season 16.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got so much more Overwatch to play, even though, the time span, not too much longer. Maybe a week and a half left to go in this season. It's all coming to a head, Mega. But for tonight, that will do it for us. Primordius Rising, bringing their story to a very, very epic conclusion next match. Thank you all for watching, and we will see y'all later.